Hello, welcome to Lesson 3 of Theme 6 GCSE Geography. What we're going to look at today is MNCs in NICs, which is multinational companies or multinational corporations working in newly industrialised countries. So the example of a multinational company that we're going to use is CocaCola, and the newly industrialised country that it's based in is India. Well, its factories are based there, but its headquarters is not. And that's what a multinational company is, really, is a company that has its headquarters in one country and factories or outlets across many others. So we're going to construct the meaning of some new key terms, and we're going to evaluate the impact that Coca-Cola has had on India. So if you go ahead, pause the video here a moment, get down the title, and we'll get started. Right then, so first off, what is an MNC? I've touched on it briefly there, but we do need to get the definition down. So a multinational company is a large company that operates in many countries, but usually with headquarters in an HIC. They're sometimes called transnational companies or transnational corporations as well, just to give you the heads up that the exam board might use TNC instead of MNC. So pause the video here a moment and get that blue definition down, please. Okay, so do you know where the headquarters of Coca-Cola actually is? It is in America, in an area called Georgia, but most of its bottling plants are in other areas of the world. In particular, they've actually got 11 bottling plants across India, the largest of which being in Kandla, which is where that red dot is there. Now, India is a newly industrialized country, so it's not quite poor enough anymore to be classed as an LIC. It's got rapidly emerging industry, a really fast developing industrial sector. Lots of factories, therefore lots of job opportunities, therefore quite a lot of money being made, and this emerging middle class coming through that have more money to spend, and it's kickstarting a lot of urban growth. So it's quite an exciting time in terms of the developmental journey of LICs moving into this newly industrialized age and being categorized as an NIC. So India is an NIC, and Coca-Cola has one of its largest bottling plants in India in an area called Kandla. However, the headquarters of Coca-Cola is an American company. It's in Georgia, all the way over here in North America. India is all the way over there. So why on earth choose to build factories and bottling plants? A plant is another word for a factory, by the way, and a bottling plant obviously is where they produce and bottle the Coca-Cola. So why did Coca-Cola choose India? Put a subheading, why did Coca-Cola choose India? You can either do it as a spider diagram or as a subheading for bullet points. And I'm going to walk you through a few different reasons, and then based on what I say, I want you to summarize that information to create your spider diagram or write your bullet points. So put a subheading, why did Coca-Cola choose India? Okay, first off, the labour force. India has a very high population, very densely populated country, so there's a lot of people there looking for work, and a lot of people there willing to work for not much money either. So you've got a large labour force, and they will work for low wages. The lower the wage you can pay somebody, the more profit you're going to make. Secondly, it's to do with the market. Like I said, there's an awful lot of people living in India. It's a very highly populated country, so you've got a direct local market to sell to. But India is also mostly surrounded by water, which makes it very easy to trade globally by ship out through the Indian Ocean. So you've got a large local market to sell to within India and easy access to global markets around the world because of India's extensive coastline. Furthermore, natural resources. India has a subtropical climate. This is perfect for farming, and it means you've got a lot of water, especially there's a monsoon season. India also, across its northern edge, has the Himalayan mountains. Now, all of those things are important because what do you need to make Coca-Cola? You need a lot of water, and you need a lot of sugar. So that subtropical climate means you can grow sugarcane in India, and the subtropical climate means there's a lot of rain to create rivers. So you're going to have plenty of water, and you've also, during the spring and summer months, you get a lot of melt water coming down from the glaciers in the Himalayas in the north. So you've got plenty of water, plenty of sugarcane, right on your doorstep. You don't have to import it from other countries, which is going to save you money and maximize your profits. So subtropical climate means you can grow sugarcane, and there's plenty of water from rivers, and the meltwater from the glaciers in the Himalayas. All of these things mean the natural resources you need are nearby, no import costs, money saved, profits maximized. Finally, the government. India is very active in trying to develop itself out of LIC status through NIC towards HIC. And to do that, they're offering a lot of incentives. Tax break. An incentive is something that you offer somebody to get them to do what you want or to come and help you. So, for example, the government is offering tax breaks. So the CocaCola doesn't have to pay taxes on the money it makes for a few years. They're offering cheap land rent on the areas that Coca-Cola wants to build factories. So if you're paying less rent, then obviously that's not going to eat into your profits. And they're offering grants as well if they employ local people. And a grant is basically money that you get given that you don't have to pay back. So government incentives, INCENTIVES, tax breaks, cheap land rent, and grants to employ local people. Okay, so let's look at whether this has been good or bad news for India. Let's evaluate the positive impacts and negative impacts. So what are the advantages from India's point of view? Put this as a subheading all ready for a spider diagram. Okay, so a large company like Coca-Cola setting up in a country like India, India doesn't have very good road networks. It doesn't have reliable electricity supply. There's a lot of power cuts. It doesn't have separate water pipelines and sewage pipelines in a lot of areas, therefore meaning you've got clean water to use. It doesn't have effective internet connections. So if you're, if you're going to try and run a multinational company in India, you're going to have to invest some money first in improving that infrastructure so that your business can run effectively. Now, if Coca-Cola spends money on improving the roads, putting in clean water pipelines and sewage pipelines, on improving internet and electricity connections, the local population is going to benefit from that as well. They can use all of this as well. So this bullet point or spider diagram element would be improvements to infrastructure. Coca-Cola spends money on improving roads, electricity, internet, water supply, and sewage management. Locals benefit from this too. Next, we've got investment. Now, Coca-Cola, you need employees in lots of different sectors. In the primary sector, farming the sugarcane, collecting the water. In the secondary sector, working actually in the bottling plants, in the factory, but also in the tertiary sector, and quaternary sector, you're going to need marketing managers, you're going to need engineers to maintain your machinery. So you need to invest money in educating people in the area so that you have a local workforce to work in those higher level jobs. Also, it's an American company. Quite often when you work for an American company, part of the perks of the jobs is you get private healthcare. So education schemes and private healthcare investment, that's going to mean better opportunities for locals and improved quality of life due to improved healthcare. Next, we've got that it will improve the standard of living. In the area surrounding the bottling plant, people can access the higher paid jobs on offer through Coca-Cola. This means they've got more disposable income, therefore their standard of living will improve. And finally, there we go. Finally, I've sort of touched on this, that it offers employment at all levels. Primary farming the sugarcane, secondary working in the factory, and tertiary and quaternary in engineering, marketing and management. So there's a range of employment opportunities. And ultimately, all of this combines to mean the economy is going to get stronger. The economy is going to make money from Coca-Cola being there, and this money can be invested in healthcare, education, infrastructure, and it might start to kick off a positive upward spiral of development in the area, rather than the downward spiral that we looked at last lesson that many LICs and NICs are wrapped in due to trading lower value goods. However, of course there's going to be a catch. There must be something in it for Coca-Cola, and sometimes this does create disadvantages for India. So subheading or spider diagram. Let's look at some of the negative impacts. So first off, let's look at the impact on the environment. Now, accompanying this lesson, there's an A4 sheet that gives you more information about how the environment is being affected. Whenever you manufacture something, whenever you make something, you're going to get waste products. Now, in this country and in many HICs, there are rules and regulations on how you have to dispose of waste products safely so that it doesn't impact the environment. In India, in a lot of areas, nobody's really keeping an eye on that. So a lot of the waste product just gets dumped into the rivers, which contaminates the local water supply. Furthermore, Coca-Cola actually got caught out in a legal battle. They were packaging up the solid waste and selling it to local farmers as fertilizer. And it was found to contain cadmium and lead, both of which are highly toxic. And farmers were putting this on their farmland. So when it rained, it got washed into the rivers, and obviously it got absorbed by the crops, and then people were eating it. So massive issue there. Plus, in the slightly drier season in India, they have issues with over extraction of groundwater. So Coca-Cola still needs a lot of water. When the rivers start to run a little bit low, they go and tap into the groundwater supply and essentially suck water out of the aquifers in the ground using pumps and wells and things. And that means there's no water left for local residents to drink, to use it for farming. So with the environment, you've got the issue of dumping waste, selling it to farmers as undercover fertilizer, and over abstraction of groundwater supplies. And if you read the accompanying resource that comes with this, you'll be able to write a little bit more information there about the environment. The next issue is the culture. Coca-Cola is an American company, and America historically has been predominantly Christian. So your holidays are Christian related. Easter, Christmas. You've got then also American holidays like Labor Day and Thanksgiving. The culture in India is very, very different. It is not a Christian or Catholic culture. I'd have to look it up, actually. Is it mostly Hindu? Diwali, Festival of Light and things like that? I'd need to look it up. But basically, the cultural traditions and holidays that exist in India, Coca-Cola doesn't really recognise them. So when you want time off for Diwali, Festival of Light, you're probably not going to get it because it's an American company, and they give you time off at Christmas when you don't need it because you don't celebrate Christmas because you're not Christian. Furthermore, traditional culture often dictates that women dress in a certain way, or they wear certain headdresses for modesty, and Coca-Cola uniform doesn't really take that into account either. So what starts to happen is the culture in the area gets diluted and forgotten due to Coca-Cola being an American company and not recognizing holidays, culture and tradition of the local residents. The next challenge is the profit. It's a multinational corporation, a multinational company with its headquarters in America. The vast majority of the profit goes back to America. Yes, some of it does stay in India, and it's used by the economy, by the government to reinvest in healthcare, education and infrastructure and further industrialization, but the majority of that money does not stay in India. It goes back to America. And finally, the working conditions and wages. We touched on this previously, that you don't have to pay people in India anywhere near as much as you would pay people in an HIC because the rules and regulations aren't there to protect them. You don't have to give them the same breaks. You don't have to adhere to the same health and safety restrictions. So the working conditions can be quite poor. The machinery can be quite dangerous. You work long hours for low wages. It's exploitation, really. So pause the video here a minute, re-listen to some of the things I've said, read the environment sheet that accompanies this lesson, and complete your spider diagram about the disadvantages to India, or bullet point list, whichever one you're making. So why have some NICs like India developed so quickly from being an LIC. Now, we touched on this a little bit in lesson 1 when we looked at development, so I'm just going to reinforce it here now that we have a case study of a country that has moved from being an LIC to an NIC. And in India's case, it's to do partly with the fact that it's so densely populated. There's 1.3 billion people in India. That's a huge workforce. The more people you have working, the more money the economy is going to make, and it will become richer more quickly. The products they produce: CocaCola, Clothes for Georgia, Asda. So they are sold to wealthy consumers in HICs, and that's going to maximize the profit margin. So even though technically they're lower value goods, this is just fizzy pop and clothing, because they're sold in HICs, we are willing to pay more money for them, and that maximizes the profit margin. So the gross national income of the country will increase, and that means more money to invest in infrastructure, healthcare, and education. The incentives: India is very good at attracting multinational companies, and that means more jobs, and therefore the gross national income will increase. It's not landlocked, so India has a really extensive coastline, great for importing and exporting and accessing global trade markets. And India is slowly but surely improving in terms of its political stability. It's moving more and more towards democracy, moving more and more to fair distribution of resources and money. Those things are starting to reach the people and communities that need it most. And therefore, as the government is becoming more stable and treating their people better, more HICs don't mind being associated with them now and doing business with them, because they're becoming more reliable and their people are getting a fairer deal, so it doesn't reflect poorly on an HIC to do business with them. That's the theory anyway. Pause the video here a minute, make this subheading, get these bullet points down, and this is the last element of this lesson. Okay, and that's it. Lesson 3 is done. So this was looking at a multinational company based in an NIC. What we're going to do next lesson is compare it with a multinational company that's based in an HIC. Tata Steel, as we know, operates prolifically across South Wales. We've got Port Talbot, we've got the industry just down the road in Trostre as well. But Tata Steel is not a British company, certainly not a Welsh company. It's an Indian company, working out mostly its headquarters from Mumbai. So what we're going to do next lesson is, this was a company with headquarters in a rich country and factories in a poor country. What we're going to look at now is a multinational company that has its headquarters in a developing country in India, but actually has most of its operations in a rich country, and compare and contrast how that operates.